This is the first real breakthrough in the negotiating process that we've had since the war began in November 2020. So there's been terrible, bitter months in which there have been huge loss of life. And the estimates are anything up to 500,000 people who have died either from the conflict or from starvation in Tigray, because the whole of Tigray is surrounded by enemies, either the Eritreans to the north or the Ethiopians to the south, east and west. And it is vital that supplies get through. They need something like 100 trucks a day. They've had 100 trucks in the last, 6 weeks. There's just absolutely, starvation is now breaking through in Tigray, and it's desperately needed. Essentially, the Ethiopians and the Eritreans who are prosecuting this war have used starvation as a weapon of war. And they are trying to crush the Tigrayan population, whom they loathe, some 6 million people, by any means possible. Now, they attempted to invade the country in November 2020. That didn't work. The Tigrayans had to flee the capital, but after a few months, they reorganized and they pushed the Eritreans and the Ethiopians right out of most of Tigray. There are only some areas on the west and in the far north which are still occupied. So the Ethiopians, the Eritreans, have basically used starvation. They've cut all the communications links, they've prevented the flights from medical flights coming in, and they prevented the trucks from rolling in either through the east or through the south. And people are starving. The situation is terrible. As ever, it is always the very young and the very old who die first. The problem is that we have no absolute certainty about what is going on, because the government of Ethiopia and of Eritrea have refused to allow any journalists into the front lines, even on the Ethiopian or Eritrean side, let alone into Tigray itself. All the communications are cut to Tigray, banking services are cut, there's no way of paying for anything, all fuel supplies that going in have been prevented. So it's almost like a sealed off area, and nobody knows really what is going on, but we do get whispers, and the whispers are terrible. The problem has been, if you prevent all international journalists from going in, there's a news vacuum. How do you cover a story where nobody's allowed to be on the ground, where you can't actually get the shots, the filming of the mother with a dying baby, the grandparents unable to feed themselves or look after themselves? Now that's the information we're getting now, day in, day out from Ukraine. You're getting nothing from Mekelle, which is the capital of Tigray, let alone the rest of the area, which is very remote. Some of them are very remote monasteries, most of which have been looted. Women have been routinely raped. Literally routinely raped. Some of the testimony was so brutal. It is truly some of the worst I have ever seen in my life. Essentially, there are two views of Ethiopia. One view says it is an imperial country, a single unitary country that was developed in the 19th century. It should really essentially return to that. The Tigrayans say no, we are all ethnic groups, we must all have a federated system in which real power is diverted to all of the ethnic areas. And that is what they tried to do until 2018, when they lost power. Sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. But those are the two views of how Ethiopia should be, and it's equally the way in which the whole of the Horn should be. My view is, if he doesn't really allow an alternative view of the way Ethiopia is run, then it is unlikely that you will have a resolution of this conflict. And that will mean that we'll go back to war. And as I say, we've already seen somewhere between 200,000 and 500,000 people killed. And that is before you take in the deaths of the Somalis who fought in this war, of the Eritreans, tens of thousands who've been thrown into the front line. So, I mean, the death toll could be immense, and we don't want to see any more of this suffering. So we really do need some kind of resolution that overcomes the political as well as the humanitarian issues.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.